Hi everyone, we are staff from the Sun Bookshop from all around Melbourne, coming to you all in Melbourne and anywhere else that you want to watch from. Yay! We're not discriminating. We are here to talk about our book recommendations this week. I have been reading, and I loved it so much, Leave the World Behind by Rumaan. It is a fantastic literary thriller. It starts with a family going off for a nice Airbnb week holiday, about an hour and a half out of New York near the beach. They have a lovely, lovely time. The house is quite secluded. They go back to the house after a day at the beach. As it starts to get dark, another couple arrive at the house, an older couple, and they say they own the house. They were in New York and there was a massive blackout and they're terrified. They don't want to go home. So they've come to their house and please let them stay. So that's all fine. And then the book turns into something else. It's such a great page turner. It's about who do you trust? It is about, I guess, where we're headed, geopolitics, environmental degradation, climate change. It is how we're running towards a cliff just to throw ourselves off. It's fantastic and I highly recommend it. So that's Leave the World Behind by Rumaan. Over to you, Kate.
Okay, so I've been reading Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, and I loved it. It's so elegant, really hypnotic, and completely immersive. So it's set in this this huge house, which is just a series of corridors and hallways that are filled with gigantic statues, and it just is never ending and intersecting. And there's only two people who live in this house. Our main character, Piranesi, who he documents his time in the house, his different journeys through the different corridors through a series of journal entries. So you're sort of reading his story through his journal entries, and the other person is called The Other, and Piranesi and The Other have an interaction a couple of times a week, and The Other seems to sort of be like the more senior, sensible person in charge in this sort of really magical, almost stream of consciousness world that Piranesi lives in. And he gifts him with, new pair of shoes, a sleeping bag, some matches, and those sorts of things, like really practical things that he can survive with. Whereas Piranesi, goes on these huge, almost pilgrimages to different corridors and explores and visits the birds, and then also leaves little offerings for the people he believes were there before him, although he has only ever been there. So he doesn't know when he started living in the house. That's all he's ever known. And it just kind of, the story unfolds through these journal entries, and then suddenly it appears there is someone else, in a third person in the great house. So it's just a really interesting exploration of the mind. It's really beautifully written. It's almost sort of magical. It's mysterious and compelling, and I loved it. So that's Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Over to you, Amanda.
Okay, I have been reading this amazing, beautiful book, The Vanishing Half by Bennett. It's about a set of twins who are from a Black community in the Deep South in the 1950s, but they have very light skin. So one of the twins, Stella, runs away and she passes for white and cuts herself off from her family completely. And so it explores themes of racism, and it follows a lot of different characters across the years to the 1990s. And there's like a mystery about where Stella has gone, and obviously her twin Desiree wants to find her and see her again, and is she going to contact her family again? So what I loved about it was the writing style is just so beautiful, and you know, I was really hooked into it, but it just made me want to slow down and enjoy every word, and that had this amazing sort of pace that encouraged me to take it slowly. And I loved how Brit Bennett gives so much detail to all of the characters, and she really gets into their lives and what each of them wants, and they each feel like a real person and have real emotions. And yeah, it was just so beautiful and emotional. It reminded me of Where the Crawdads Sing in terms of her writing style was very similar. So I think people who've enjoyed that will enjoy the writing in this book. She's just such a talented writer, and yeah, it was really emotional, and it's just been nominated for the National Book Awards in the US. So I loved it, and I definitely recommend this one. Kate.
Beautiful cover too. Not that it should matter, but it
Yeah.
does. So I read this week A Beautifully Foolish Endeavour by Hank Green, which is actually the sequel to his book An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. And it's so hard to review a sequel because I don't want to give away details of the many twisty, turny things that happened in the first book. But I will tell you this, that as you start this sequel, you're entering a world that's gone through an enormous upheaval and trauma. And the first book has explored what happens when giant robot sculptures, who are quickly named the Carls, appear overnight all over the world, and humans become infected with a strange interactive dream where you have to solve riddles and puzzles. The second and final book picks up the story about 5 months after the end of the last, and it's told from the 4 individual perspectives of Andy, Maya, Miranda, and even the protagonist from the first book, April May. And those of you who've read the first book will understand why that's a little bit surprising. It picks up the question of who the Carls were and why they came, as well as moving each character's own story and growth forward. Early on, Green uses this little nifty trick of having the characters receive a mysterious book that gives them very specific tasks to do. And these tasks drive the story, but never feels like a cheap writing trick. It really works. And I'm actually hesitant to give away any more of the plot because there's a lot of story in here. I'm probably going to have to read it again to fully understand what's happened. But on the whole, this book is a critique of capitalism, a how-to guide of how to be a good citizen online. Talks about those who can hold and control wealth and the way that wealth creates these frightening monopolies. Let's not talk about Jeff Bezos. And it's an exploration of what it means to be human in this increasingly automated and virtual world. Highly recommend A Beautifully Foolish Endeavour, but pick this one up first. And this is now out in a little cheaper, small format, so it'll be a bargain. Thank you for tuning into our recommendations again this week, and we'll see you soon. Happy reading.
Happy reading. Bye.